and they were overjoyed. They came to the house, and they saw the child and his mother, and they bowed down and they worshiped him. And they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So, who heard some of the things that they did when they found out about Jesus? Nobody? Okay, I'll read it again. All right. Here we go. Back that up. So, and there were shepherds. Or wait, did you guys actually maybe hear something? What did they do? They did what?
They were tending their flock.
They were? And how did they respond when they found out about this baby?
They ran to Bethlehem.
They ran to Bethlehem. So it was exciting, right? So I made a list of all the things that I saw them do. Have you guys ever done the Hallelujah, Hallelujah song? Yeah, and so like you stand up, you sit down. All right, so get ready, because here's the deal. I'm going to say a thing, and if it's something that you can do this Christmas, I want you to stand up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Can you praise God?
Praise God. Praise God.
I like it. All right, sit down, sit down. Can you look for Jesus in Christmas? You can't. I like it. All right. Can you spread the word about Jesus? Okay. Are there special things you could remember about this Christmas? Whoa, you guys are like professional Christmasers. What about being full of joy? Can you guys do joy this Christmas? Cool. Can you worship Jesus? All of you? Nobody's held back. What about this? Do you think you have a gift you could give Jesus? Oh, we're not sure about that one. What if you were the gift? How would that be? So, I want you to listen as I talk later on and see what it would look like for you to be the gift this Christmas. You can head back to your seats.
I guess we're there, yeah. It's always interesting to me because the power thought was never something I'd ever done in other churches. And so when I come to the power thought like the sermon, we don't take lightly. We spend a lot of time thinking about how can we bring God's thoughts, God's blessings, and God's presence more close to the congregation as we make the power thoughts. And so as you go through this, you contemplate it because you know, okay, you're going to be on there coming. And honestly, I had one thought that came to my mind, and it kept popping in my mind over the last couple of weeks, and I kept pushing it off, and I'm going, no, I don't want to do that. And all of a sudden, I get down to this, and I go, Lord, I'm dry. I just don't have anything. And the funny part about it is I pick it up, and that funny is not really a pun there, but he says, I have a comic for you. A comic? Come on. So I pull out this thing, and there's this comic. Well, at least that's what they call it. There's a piece in the newer reviews. I don't know if you paid much attention to the newer reviews, and it shows a bird chirping in the air, and the little boy down below is going chirp. And then it shows a bird that says humming in the air, and there's humming, and then underneath it, it says the following, and I will put my glasses on for this, Matthew, just for you. No, actually, I need them. It says, make a joyful noise unto God, all ye lands. Sing forth the honor of his name. Make his praise glorious. Say unto the Lord, how awesome are thy works. And then the comment beside it that's written there says this, on the rocks and knolls about his home, the eye of the Son of God often rested. He saw the sun in the heavens, the moon and the stars fulfilling their mission. With the voice of singing, he welcomed the morning light. He listened to the lark caroling forth music to God and joined his voice with the voice of praise and thanksgiving. Make a joyful noise unto God, all ye lands. Sing forth the honor of his name. Make his praise glorious. Say unto God, how terrible art thou in thy works. This psalm and portions of the 68th and 72nd psalm were often sung by Christ. This is a comment from Ellen White, the youth instructor. But what struck me as I read that is for weeks I thought about telling you about an event that happened probably 15 or 20 years ago now. I went to a class for the amateur radio, and so we went to the amateur radio relay league's headquarters in Newington, Connecticut. And then later, a year later, I went to another one in Roseville. And while I was there, the instructor, he was an engineer by trade, an electrical engineer by trade. He had been a pilot. I won't tell you what kind. You can ask me later. You might figure it out. But he had done advanced training in composites, materials, and radio. And somewhere along the line when we were talking, he started saying, well, we're out in the morning in the desert. There's a few of us, we go out. And the name of the project, if I remember, was Inspire, but I cannot find it on the internet. I can't find it anywhere. I'll have to see if he's still alive and see if I can find it. But they were going out into the desert as far as they could get from any civilized person, thing, power line, anything, and they were recording the sound of the earth as the sunlight came across the earth in the morning. And he gave me one of the recordings. Obviously you can't hear it at the frequencies that they're going as the sunlight crossed over. But as this would happen, the things would start to vibrate and they'd make sounds. And so I guess the proper word would be transposed it. They shift the frequencies up into the human hearing range. And when he gave me one of these things, it was about 1.5 minutes long, and I've been looking for it for years, hoping I could create a children's story or something from it, because our stuff is still in storage. But bottom line, you hear this ringing. You hear this ringing. You hear this ringing. You hear this ringing. And it's coming through in different sounds, frequencies, and it's almost a sense of a symphony starting up. It's absolutely beautiful that the earth, as the sun hits on things, they vibrate. Just like different pieces of metal, you can hit them, and they all have their own frequency that's characteristic to that thing. And when he gave me that thing, I looked at it, the very first thing that popped into my brain, and this is where my power thought was going to go, was to the end of the great controversy. There's a couple of paragraphs in there, and I was only going to include one, but I'm going to include two just because of Jim. The next to the last paragraph says this, and every living creature which is in heaven and on earth and under the earth and such that are in the sea and all that are in them, heard I saying, blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sitteth on the throne and unto the Lamb forever and ever. But this was the part that struck me. The great controversy is ended. Sin and sinners are no more. The entire universe is clean. One pulse of harmony and gladness beats through the vast creation. From him who created all flow life and light and gladness throughout the realms of illimitable space. From the minutest atom to the greatest world, all things, animate and inanimate, in their unshadowed beauty and joy, declare the love of God. And as I listened to that thing, you could just hear, and you could hear the sounds, and you go, the earth every day praises God as it comes across. Yes, it's inanimate. Yes, it vibrates only because of energy going through that, but the earth praises. And so as I thought about that, I remember Jim singing it with the question, is he worthy? really the question should, to be in my mind, can human comprehension ever understand his worth? Someday, the tinnitus of world chaos around us will break loose into that harmony of a single beat of God's love.
So I looked at the room this morning and felt like that was really far back from you guys. So I'm going to come down here, and hopefully I can keep from roving too much. So I want to talk to you this morning about the power of Christmas. I told a friend recently that I was speaking this morning, Christmas Sabbath, if you will. Oh, that's one too many. Christmas Sabbath, if you will. And I said it's kind of funny because growing up and into adulthood, I've always had kind of this weird thing about Christmas, particularly Christmas in the church and how we engage it. And I just kind of put it out there in a passing thing, and they spoke back and they said, well, I kind of have something like that too. Can you tell me about, what does that mean for you? And it occurred to me, I'd never really processed though. What is it that, I don't know, it's just kind of different for me. I don't experience it the way some people talk about it. And so I sat down and I began to type, and it was very interesting to me to just get inside my own head, my own heart. I went back to when I was a kid, and December hits, and there's this weirdness that just kind of washes over all the world. We pivot from the busyness and normal rhythms, and suddenly we sweep into this nostalgia, right? We start talking about, I remember growing up, and my father did this, and my mother did this, and our family did that, and my grandmother, her cookies. And I didn't have a lot of those kind of memories, so maybe that was part of it for me. I don't know. But it was things like, how many of you guys remember Bob Kinsley's weekly Billboard Country Countdown? Some of us that have this color hair might. That was my parents' genre. But suddenly, we're pulling out boxes of records from the 40s and 50s. We got some Bing Crosby. We've got Alvin and the Chipmunks. And it's like, what? Oh, well, that's different. And the whole thing, it's kind of nice, right? There's a familiar rhythm to it. The month goes on, and as a kid, the anticipation kind of starts to build. And then it culminates in Christmas. And then, of course, you got school break. Who doesn't love that part? And so I started thinking about it as an adult. So what is it about an adult? Well, I don't get Christmas break from work. I don't know about the rest of you. And family is different now. But for me, the struggle has actually been more the fact that we talk about Jesus in certain ways. He's a king of power, but it comes to Christmas and we suddenly start talking about him as a baby. He's this helpless infant come to earth. And there's, for whatever reason, we start focusing that he's the Jesus. He walked on waters and walked through walls, and he healed the sick and raised the dead and restored the outcast. Revelation says he's got a tattoo on his leg. He's riding a war horse and he's wielding a sword. We keep trying to fit him back in this manger, though. Get back in there. We like that. And I started thinking about that, and how well, it'd be very unique anyway. Have you guys seen the reenactment photos where adult children will recreate a photo from when they were kids? And it's hilarious, right? Because, you got the kid that was this big is now, dad's holding him. But it's almost like we do that sometimes with Christmas. If all of our friends and relatives, and maybe even people we didn't know, because life takes a lot of people, we created these reenactments about life leading up to our birth. And we celebrated that every year. It'd be kind of weird. And so it really made me wonder, why do we go there specifically for Christmas? Not that it's wrong. Let me be really clear. Not downing it, but it really just made me wonder. Why is that where our mind goes to when we have the entire life of Jesus that we're celebrating? And so, and I hope maybe this is different for you, but in my experience growing up, Christmas wasn't even really all that much about Jesus. It was about lights and Christmas music and shopping, and got to get those presents wrapped, and we go to plays, or there's Christmas movies, and there's meals and Santa, and travel plans galore, because my parents did not fly. We drove everywhere. And also, did I mention the figgy pudding? And we've got a donkey that's going, ee-haw, ee-haw, and there's a mutant reindeer and hippopotamuses, and this is Christmas. In the circles I was a part of, there was never conversations of, here's what Jesus means to me this year at Christmas. And at best, often we talk about him, like he's not in the room with us right now. And so knowing I was speaking this week, I've just been sitting with God, like, what do you want to talk about this week, God? And about 4 a.m. about a week ago, God has a sense of humor, I was woken up with several distinct thoughts, a couple that I've been chewing on, and a couple I've never had that thought in my life. And I got up because Kim doesn't get up at 4 a.m., and it would have been very unkind of me to get her up. So I got up and I went out in the living room and pulled out my computer, and I just felt like I was going to do some research, because 4 a.m. research is some of the best. And I started digging into Christmas and why we celebrate it, when we celebrate it. And so in the Christian church, especially if we lean into our more conservative side of Christianity, we'll often hear people talk about the fact that, well, we know Christmas is on the 25th, but that's not when Jesus was born. Because we need to make that distinction for some reason. That was definitely a pagan holiday, right? And I'd never actually researched it. I've heard the conversations, and so I actually started digging into it, and it was actually quite interesting. So you have, starting December 17th through the 23rd, so the 8 days, you've got Saturnalia. I'm probably killing these words, by the way, which was a festival in the Roman world. It was marked by, this is going to shock you guys, feasting and gift giving for 8 days. So the good news is, if it was anything like the 12 days of Christmas, there was less birds being given. Following that then, anybody want to guess the date? December 25th, we have Diet Natalius Solis Invicti. I don't speak Latin, but that's what it said. And this was the birthday of the unconquered sun. It was associated with the cult worship of the sun god, and it was said to be the rebirth of the sun after the winter solstice. And so I kept looking, and what I found is there's actually no evidence that the early church celebrated Jesus' birth. The earliest mention was somewhere between 180 and 200 AD, and even then they couldn't agree. Was it a fall birth? Was it a spring birth? They definitely weren't looking at winter. But the first celebration related to Jesus and his birth comes in Rome in 336 AD. They added a festival to their calendar called the Nativity Feast. And as I look at all of that evidence, December 25th, it was quite definitely established as a pagan worship holiday in Rome. Rome, the greatest empire on earth. Rome, the oppressor of the Jews. Rome, the civil power that would eventually crucify Jesus. And this is the thought that woke me up that morning. It was as loud as if it had been spoken in my ear. It was, do you think that the God of all creation the God who sets the stars and the sun in place. He created the oceans and the mountains and forests and the deserts. And he also created microbiology. Do you think that he planned for centuries for the birth of Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us, the Word that became flesh and dwelt among us, this event that was prophesied for generations? It was announced by the stars and the hosts of heaven. Do you think that God, he didn't look down through time and foresee that pagan celebrations giving glory to that little light in the sky that he made would somehow become celebrated as one of the most profound events on earth? And do you think that this almighty God, the one who's outside of time itself, the Alpha and the Omega, beginning and end, do you think he missed that detail and there was just no way to prevent it? And that's a weird thought to wake up to. Here's what I think happened. I don't think there was a chance that he missed it. I think, and this is my interpretation, I can't get this out of Scripture, so I think God looked through time and said, nice, I'll have it. I will have your pagan sun worship. I will take that day and I will subvert it. I will make it my own. I will use it to bring glory to my Son, not the one in the sky, the one created from divinity. And out of that, even on this day that was thought to be given to pagan worship, he said, I'm going to be the one that blesses you, not the sun in the sky. My face will shine upon you, not the sun in the sky. I'm going to be gracious to you. I'm going to be generous to you. I'm going to give you gifts. I'm going to be the one that lifts your countenance. And the sun shining, that's not going to be your peace. I'm going to be your peace. And so I did some more research, and it's hard to know because it's a big, big world, you guys. But it's somewhere between 1.8 and 2.3 billion, with a B, 1.8 to 2.3 billion people celebrate a Christ-centered Christmas every year. That's not just people who the whole world's giving gifts, so they're giving gifts, so they're going to put lights up because it's a holiday season. That's people who say Jesus is why we're doing this. Not bad. Not bad. And so I thought about that some more. And Christmas, we look at it as a season, but it's not. It's not a season. It's not a holiday. It's not a warm place in my heart. Christmas is a response to a hostage situation. Christmas is God embedding himself behind enemy lines and pulling off the ultimate rescue mission. You guys, Christmas is a tactical assault on the power of darkness. I want to read this verse here. I think you might agree. You guys have heard this probably a lot of times if you've grown up in the church, and depending on how many Christmas sermons you've endured or enjoyed, or even if you watched Charlie Brown and the Peanuts, it's in there. Isaiah 9, starting in verse 2, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light, not the sunshine, by the way. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them a light has shone. You have multiplied the nation, you have increased its joy, and they rejoice before you as with the joy at the harvest, as they are glad when they divide the spoil. The yoke of his burden and the staff for his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian. Every boot of the trampling warrior in battle tumult and every garment rolled in blood will be burned as fuel for the fire. Because unto us a child is born, and a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and the name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of his peace there will be no end. I'm going to say it again. Christmas is a tactical assault on the power of darkness. Jesus came as a helpless baby But he didn't stay there, you guys. He returned to be who he's always been. He is a conquering, ruling king. John 1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. In case you're wondering, he was there. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that has been made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And as I read that, it says he's the Word. And I've not found anybody that can quite articulate. So what was Jesus before he was the Jesus we see in the story of the Nativity? Well, he was literally the Word. How did God create the world? It was through his Word. It says here, nothing was made without him. He was whatever that was. He was a living and alive. And he put on flesh and bones so that we could see him. He existed before the foundation of the earth. He dwelled with man in the garden. He walked on earth before the incarnation with Abraham and Jacob and Gideon and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire. And then, because that wasn't enough, he came. He is the God that comes. Every other God says, work your way to me. He says, I'm coming to you. He came and he lived and he died and he rose and he returned to his Father. And he said these words, lo, I'm with you always. And it wasn't the equivalent of when we're moving away and we say, we're going to keep in touch. Yeah, we're going to keep in touch. It wasn't even a promise. It was just a fact. I am with you always. And he's the God that still comes. He comes for the broken. He comes for the wandering, for the hurting, for the addicted, for the unfaithful, for the uncertain. He comes for the apathetic and the angry. He comes for those mourning, those who feel hopeless or desperate, the shattered and the discontented, the destructive and the dying. He comes because he can't stay away. He's always wanted to be with us. He was there before. He was there in the garden. He's been there through with us, and he's still. The same God who came then, the same God who subverted that pagan holiday, the same God who gives the gift of eternity. Kids, we talked about this earlier, right? He's asking for us. That's the Christmas gift he wants. He's asking for our strength. He's asking for our courage. He wants our reputation. He wants our time. He wants our devotion. Nobody wants half a gift, do they? He wants it all. Because he doesn't stop there. He wants our inconvenience. He's asking for the broken parts and the messed up parts and our delusional perfection, our self-reliance, our selfishness. He's asking for all of it because just like he did on that global scale, he wants to launch an initiative in our lives too. And so the question becomes, will we welcome him? And we can say of course we welcome him, but it's not a we thing. It's an I thing. Will I receive him, or will I resist him? Will I choose the thing that he wants to work on in me, or will I say, I'm good enough? Here's the portion you can have. And I think that's part of the reason why we're so in awe of the moment in history where we see Jesus as a baby, because the instant reaction to everyone that encounters him, shepherds to kings, is they worship him. And I think there's actually a part of us that wants that experience. We want that encounter with the living God, that it's not a, well, I guess I can worship. I got 5 minutes. I have nothing else to respond with but the wholehearted worship of all I am. And I was thinking about that through different people's eyes and ears, hearing those words that I just said. And there's kind of two groups, I think, maybe three. One group says, yeah, I want that too. Even if I don't know how to have that, I want it. Then there's the group that says, yeah, but Jim, I'm a Bible-believing, baptized in some of the coldest waters you'll find anywhere to get baptized in, Jesus-following Christian. That's awesome. I love that. I've also met most of you on different levels, and I can promise Jesus wants more because he wants to do a greater work in your life than has already been completed. And then there's the other side that says, but Jim, I don't even know this Jesus. I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know if I want him. He's talking about all of my life, and I kind of like my life the way I've arranged it. Or maybe I don't like my life the way I've arranged it, but I don't know that I want what he wants. And that's great too. I actually love that even more because it's honest, it's real. And if that's you, I would say, come find me. Let's talk so that you can actually make a decision. I want that or I don't want it. But then you know, then it's not a question in your heart. And as I've been considering this leading up to today, I've been asking, so what is the thing for me this year? Because this year's been a year of incredible growth in my own heart and mind. It's been a year of celebrating. It's been a year of redefining some really good stuff. It's also been a year of grieving. It's been a year of unlearning and relearning, thinking new thoughts and picking up a few painful memories. Unlock some new fears, things I didn't even know I would ever have a concern about. So for me, this Christmas, and this is just for me, but I'm inviting Jesus to get up out of that manger, climb off Mary's lap, and to sit with me in all the everything that this year has been. The grief and the joy and the frustration and the thankfulness, and to sit with me and do what he does best. To redeem and to restore my heart and my mind and my soul, and to lead me, to go before me, and to go behind me, to speak over me, again, the words of life. And I think there's an invitation for all of us to engage that, and I'm actually going to give you space to do that this morning. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to give you time to do, as a friend of mine says, to do business with the Lord. And so I'm just asking Don to throw some music on for a couple minutes here. And I want you to consider two questions this morning. How have you experienced Jesus leading up to Christmas this year? What does that look like? And the second one is, how are you still longing to experience him this Christmas? I want you guys to just take a minute with that. I'm going to invite our musicians to come up to lead us in a song. But as they're coming, I want to read this chorus from a song. It's not particularly well known. It is a Christmas song. It might be one of my favorites. It's called How Many Kings? How many kings stepped down from their thrones? How many lords have abandoned their homes? How many greats have become the least for me? How many gods have poured out their hearts to romance a world that's been torn apart? How many fathers would give up their sons for me? There's only one. And we get to celebrate him this Christmas.
Sing song.
Jesus, this Christmas, we celebrate your birth. And Jesus, this Christmas, we celebrate your kingship. Jesus, this Christmas, we celebrate the redemptive work you're doing in each of us. God, would you give us courage to allow that work to occur? In the places where we have carried hurt, in the places where we've carried grief, in the places where we've carried questions, we invite you in. And in the places where we've celebrated and where we've found joy and life, we thank you. And we remind ourselves of your goodness. We remind ourselves that you are the God who comes for us. And we thank you for that. Amen. you.